Hello and welcome. You're with us here in Business Today. I'm Aabha Bakaya. Here are the day's top stories. Sensex closes at its lifetime high with IT and oil and gas powering the 762-point rise today. All sectoral indices in the green. Nifty up 217 points to close at its 52-week high. Rupee will fall to 83 to the dollar next year, says RBI's Ashima Goyal, expresses confidence the Indian currency will rally later in 2023. Tata Consumer all set to buy Bisleri and its other brands for 7,000 crore rupees to become the largest player in the packaged water market. It's an early Christmas on D Street with key indices notching robust gains today. While the Nifty 50 hit a fresh 52-week high, the Sensex closed at a lifetime high. Really, record-breaking given what we're seeing across global markets. The broader markets today maintaining a firm stance, also in the green, with both mid and small cap indices closing with gains of nearly 0.5%. The Sensex was 762 points higher at close at 62,273, while the Nifty was up over 200 points at 18,484. The top Nifty gainers today: Apollo Hospital, HDFC Life, BPCL, Infosys, Tata Consumer, and the laggards were led by Cipla, Coal India, Bajaj Financial Services, Kotak Bank and Tata Motors. The rupee all set to slip to the 83 to the dollar mark early next year. This is what the RBI forecasts for the Indian currency. There is, however, some good news with the central bank saying the inflation trend may now be under control.
I think there are certain features in the global environment that are somewhat positive. One, that their long-term inflation expectations have not gone up that much, and their interest rates now are in the restrictive territory or slightly positive territory with respect to that long-run inflation. So therefore, they might not need to raise much more. And then you are having a global commodity slowdown, so that could bring down inflation faster than we expect. But of course, in the US, because of the huge stimulus and tight labor market, that is going to keep inflation high. And the second positive thing is that the Fed now is not saying that we are going to keep rates high until we reach 2% inflation, which is their target, because they've recognized lags that, you make it to some, when it comes down to 4, maybe you can stop and wait for further action. I think I agree that in this H1 it will depreciate a bit, say 83, but it will strengthen after that. Because some research we've done suggests that when you look at structural factors, India's real exchange rate is appreciating. So those should take the market back after all this volatility subsides.
FMCG giant Tata Consumer all set to take a sip of Bisleri. Aqua King Ramesh Chauhan is reportedly selling the company to the Tatas for around 7,000 crore rupees. But is N. Chandrasekharan's Tata Consumer the best fit for the water brand? And what's the secret sauce for Bisleri's growth story? Here's a report.
He was the soft drinks king of India before he abdicated the throne in 1993. Ramesh Chauhan then held the crown of the country's Aqua King, a title he's abdicating now 29 years later. The 82-year-old Gujarati entrepreneur turned a relatively unknown bottled water brand into a market giant, a generic name for all bottled water. Today, just the name Bisleri is needed for a shopkeeper to hand over a bottle of water. Also on the block, along with Bisleri, are other Chauhan brands like Vedika and soda brands like Spicy, Limonata and many more. Ramesh Chauhan, who launched Bisleri in 1969, is also known for his earlier creations including Thumbs Up, Maaza, Gold Spot and Limca. Bisleri's story begins in Mumbai. It was first introduced in a glass bottle by an Italian company and was later bought by Parle. Currently, Bisleri has competitors like Kinley, which is a flagship brand of Coca-Cola, PepsiCo's Aquafina and Tata's own Himalayan. As per company website, Bisleri holds 60% market share in the domestic bottled water industry. For Tata Consumer, it is a win-win deal. The company already owns water and drink brands like Himalayan, Copper Plus, Gluco and Fruski. Its portfolio also includes tea, coffee, liquid beverages and foods. It has been strengthening its portfolio. Last year, it acquired Kotaram Agro Foods, the company that owns Soulful, a breakfast cereal brand. The latest acquisition will parachute it well beyond the reach of its foreign competition, Coke and Pepsi. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
Reliance Jio all set to conquer the financial services space. A report by Macquarie Research on the entry of Jio Financial Services even spooked the Paytm stock earlier this week. The RIL company is likely to be the 5th largest financial services firm in the country. Business Today TV Siddharth Zarabi spoke to Macquarie's head of financial research for India, Suresh Ganapathy, about the disruptions the new company could bring into the market.
The biggest advantage, as is the case with the group here, is the network effect that we are talking about, where it has access to, say, 400 million customers of the telecom base. It has about 200 million customers in the retail space. Unparalleled distribution footprint across 15,000 plus outlets that we're talking about, including the digital stores, the Reliance Mart, the various grocery stores, the Reliance Digital that they own. So you're talking about an enormous amount of reach and distribution wherewithal or capacity that the group has. And then how well you can leverage this data to come up with innovative financial products and solutions to your customers. And as I said, one of the biggest points of difference between, say, JFS versus, say, some of the other fintechs here is that JFS will have a significant access to capital and will actually lend from their balance sheet. So it's going to be a balance sheet heavy business and not merely a distributor or an asset light business, which significantly differentiates, because that gives a competitive advantage, because you can call the shots at that point in time when you are lending to your own customer, right? Rather depending upon a bank or another NBFC to decide and take a call as to whom to lend and whom not to lend. So that's the advantage that Reliance brings in. And of course, as you know, the group is pretty good in terms of its execution capabilities and stuff. So net, if I were to put all these pieces of puzzle together, it becomes quite a formidable force, I would say, the overall financial ecosystem.
Suresh, if one were to take this point about 5th largest forward, then the obvious next question would be, who all will it displace? Now, it's very clear that in terms of the banking space, you have two big names, HDFC and State Bank of India, who are going nowhere, and then there is ICICI, and there are other names also. I'm not saying this from a sort of company picking or stock picking point of view, but who will JFS displace? Will it be more of an NBFC impact to be felt to start with?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I will refrain from taking any particular name here, because that should not be the purview of this discussion. But generally, if I were to give you an overview, the one which it will least disrupt, or where there is less of a challenge, is going to be banks, because what happens here is that GFS, at least when they begin, they are now going to get a banking license, right? So the Reserve Bank of India, of course, has been a bit more reluctant in giving corporate groups banking licenses. So JFS has an NBFC license, a payments bank license. Maybe they'll end up getting the insurance licenses also, and they may get AMC, broking, and all other kind of licenses that we're talking about. But banking license is going to be a difficult task. So their ability to go and completely disrupt, because they won't have access to retail deposits that the bank has. So that cost of funds advantage that banks have, and therefore they can cater to the creme de la creme customers, is always going to be there with the banking space. In my opinion, the immediate impact will be felt both on the NBFC as well as in the fintech space. So what they are likely to do, in my opinion, when they begin their operations is they can go aggressively on the, this is what they have also mentioned in the press release, both on the consumer lending front as well as on the merchant lending front, because that's where I think they can see an enormous opportunity, and that's an area where both NBFCs as well as fintechs compete and collaborate, right? So that's the market where they can significantly cause quite a lot of disruption. And note that Reliance Industries, the group itself, borrows at much more attractive rates compared to some of the AAA rated NBFCs. So you can imagine when you can bring that kind of rating to JFS, and JFS is in a position to borrow at very attractive attractive rates, they can compete with every NBFC in the market, and also for that matter, fintechs by obviously having their own payments ecosystem, and at the same time collaborating and trying to do various kind of lending to both consumers as well as merchants. Particularly in the consumer front, I think they will begin by doing a lot of digital lending. They will also do a lot of consumer unsecured loans, because those are relatively, I would say, quick to market kind of loans, rather doing a secured loan, because you need to have a collateral, you need to have a proper recovery mechanism, physical repossession activity in place, which I think will take time. They will definitely enter into that space. Initially, to begin with, largely NBFCs and fintechs, particularly involved in the consumer as well as merchant lending space.
What are the likely execution risks for an enterprise of this sort?
Yeah, I think, look, this is somewhat kind of an uncharted territory, right? Because at the end of the day, everything really depends upon the kind of people whom you're going to recruit, because it's a very HR intensive process. You may have the technology, perhaps you can buy the technology, and you can have experts with great, who can build up great user interfaces and have a great tech ecosystem. But the real challenge in any financial services entity is the ability to lend, right? And that has complete skill sets, different skill sets in terms of ability to underwrite, ability to use alternate data to underwrite some of the loans. So I think that capability needs to be developed, and therefore they of course have got the man who has built several businesses in the past in ICICI, which is KB Kamath, who is KB Kamath, and we all need to see what kind of people he is able to hire and actually grow the business in due course of time. But those are some of the execution risks that we should be mindful about. Basically, setting up the entire credit and lending ecosystem.
The huge Apple iPhone plant run by Foxconn in the Chinese city of Zhengzhou was rocked by unprecedented violence, with hundreds of workers joining a protest. The anger stems out of frustration with China's ultra-severe COVID rules, as well as what analysts say is inept handling of the situation by the world's largest contract manufacturer.
Surveillance cameras smashed. Windows broken. Quarantine barriers taken down. Security officers in white hazmat suits covering behind reinforced plastic shields, retreating before the fury of hundreds of Foxconn workers protesting outside the company's flagship iPhone plant in China. Injured people were also seen being attended to outside the plant. The chants of "Give us our pay" resounded even as the protesters were bombarded with tear gas shells. The trigger of the protest, which began on Wednesday, seemed to be a plan to delay bonus payments. In videos widely circulated on social media, workers also complained that they were forced to share living space with colleagues who had tested positive for COVID-19. Foxconn meanwhile stepped up its firefighting with a statement blaming a technical error during fresh recruitments and offered an apology. It also reportedly offered $1,400 to any worker who chose to leave the job. The sum is to be paid in 2 installments. The city government has meanwhile announced mobility controls over parts of the city till Tuesday, effectively clamping a lockdown that could hamper efforts to recruit new workers to replace those who leave. Interestingly, Foxconn is a Taiwanese company, prompting many to wonder whether China intentionally allowed the unrest to fester. The mounting dissatisfaction among Foxconn's ranks meanwhile threatens to further disrupt production at a plant that cranks out the majority of Apple's marquee devices for shipment around the world. The US company has already warned it will ship fewer devices than anticipated during the critical holiday quarter, while wait times for iPhones have ballooned in some cases to after Christmas. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
The mass layoffs in big tech companies like Facebook, Amazon, Google, Twitter and others have left thousands of NRI techies jobless and vulnerable to deportation. Many of these individuals are looking for jobs in India, reaching out to HR service providers. But will corporate India be able to match the salaries and the lifestyle these techies are used to? Business Today TV correspondent Akanksha Chaturvedi spoke to P. Vishwanath, MD of Randstad, an international HR services company, on this issue. Listen in.
Indians working in the US, they have got used to a certain lifestyle, and also the work-life balance there. And then they also have family-related concern. They may have a house, they may have a lot of things. So affinity to that place is going to be high. So from that perspective, I think you will still see people returning, but the numbers may not be very big. My guess is it could be anywhere between 4,000 to 5,000 in the near term.
All right, sir. So when we have these 4,000 to 5,000 highly skilled, highly trained, working at big tech companies, people coming in the Indian job markets, do you think it would make it tough for Desi techies who've been working in India, who have experience only at Indian companies? Would it make it difficult or more competitive for them?
Well, I think, I think we need to see who are the kind of categories of people who would want to come back, right? So typically when a company is downsizing, the first target is obviously the people who are their low performers, right? And they could be low performers because, I think it's because they don't have the right skills that are needed for the future, right? And then the second category is people who are high cost, and typically these are the people who could be, in the early 50s and beyond. So and they have an option. They would say, okay, I don't want to go back. I would perhaps want to set up my own consulting here, right? So I think that many people may not come in, but having said that, those who would be returning would be on those on the H-1B visas, and then perhaps the youth which have just gone in there and still finding it hard to get an alternative job quickly. So one option they have is reskill themselves. Other option is to return. Now, obviously, when they return, I think they bring in different capabilities. I think one is the global mindset, which is very important. Second is also about the type of work that is being done in India today. Most companies are, of course, there are exceptions, but by large, a lot of work that is being done in India is more around the software, hardware, tech support, ERP implementation, maintenance kind of projects, and then also phone networks. Those kind of work is what is being done by large, right? So I think it's going to provide a level playing field, but at the same time, the Indian workforce can benefit out of working in parlance with the people who are returning.
India's biggest textile hub, Surat, recorded a 50% decline in retail demand during this year's Diwali festive season due to varied reasons. Here's Business Today TV's Chetan Bhutani in conversation with the Federation of Surat Textile Traders Association, which oversees an industry with an annual turnover of 80,000 crore rupees.
मेरा ये मानना है कि पिछले 2 साल कोविड के बाद लास्ट ईयर टाइम का जो सीजन था, उसमें शादियों की सीजन एक साथ जब निकली थी, तो हमारा सूरत कपड़ा बाजार का 85,000 करोड़ रुपए का टर्नओवर हो गया था। हमें लग रहा था कि अब धीरे धीरे ये स्थितियां नॉर्मल होती जा रही है और आने वाले दिनों में इस वक्त हमारा ये व्यापार बढ़ करके 1 लाख करोड़ से भी ऊपर हो जाएगा। परंतु स्थिति ये रही है कि ये जो दिवाली रही, ये दिवाली और पहले की जितनी भी हमारी फेस्टिवल सीजनें रही है, वो सारी की सारी फैल रही है, क्योंकि उसमें कपड़ा उद्योग में हमने 16,000 करोड़ रुपए के टर्नओवर का दीपावली को हम बिजनेस करते हैं, या हमारा शादी ब्याह का जो सीजन रहता है उसमें हमारा कपड़ा जो सब बिकता है, उन सब में इस बार 50% भी हम लोग अपना अचीव नहीं कर पाए। 8,000 करोड़ को ही कपड़ा नहीं बेच पाए उसमें हम। और साथ ही साथ दीपावली के बाद आज 15 दिन चले गए हैं, उसके बाद भी मार्केट जब रनिंग होना चाहिए, आज भी व्यापारी अभी तक गांव से आकर के भी दुकानें खोले वैसी परिस्थिति में नहीं है, क्योंकि यानी कि दीपावली से पहले भी डिमांड नहीं थी और दीपावली के बाद भी अभी डिमांड नहीं है, जबकि अब लगन सरा की बिक्री भी आगे आने वाले टाइम में है। इस तरीके से सूरत कपड़ा बाजार में न तो पेमेंट है और न ही कोई डिमांड है, इस वजह से व्यापारी निराश है।
क्यों ऐसा क्या है? 2 साल में जो इन्वेंट्री थी उसको पहले निकाला जा रहा है और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग अभी स्लो है, क्या कारण दिखते हैं?
इसमें मैं ये मानता हूं कि जो सूरत का कपड़ा है वो पूरे हिंदुस्तान के छोटे से छोटे गांवों में जाकर के बिकता है और वहीं से हमारा कपड़े का बूम आता है। तो मैं ये मानता हूं कि कपड़े में पिछले 7-8 महीने से परचेजिंग पावर जो व्यापारी का होना चाहिए वो कहीं ना कहीं मार खाया है। या सरकार की जिन स्कीमें नीचे के लेवल पे जो पैसा पैदा करती थी, यानी कि मनरेगा या कोई भी ऐसी जिससे पैसा सर्कुलेशन में आता था, उसके पास में नीचे के मध्यम श्रेणी और गरीब तबके के पास कहीं ना कहीं महंगाई की मार का भी असर देखने को मिलता है। और कपड़ा जब खरीदता है जब आदमी की दूसरी आवश्यकताएं पूरी हो जाती है। और मेरे को ये लगता है कि जब तक नीचे के सर्कुलेशन में पैसा नहीं आएगा तब तक ये मार कपड़ा बाजार में निश्चित रूप से पेमेंट के रूप में भी देखने को पड़ेगी और कपड़े की महंगाई के रूप में के साथ साथ कपड़े की डिमांड भी कम रहेगी।
क्या ये भी फैक्टर है कि जो रुपया और डॉलर में, रुपया महंगा हो गया है डॉलर के मुकाबले, तो सॉरी रुपया कमजोर हो गया डॉलर के मुकाबले, तो क्या उस पर भी ट्रेडर्स को इम्पैक्ट हुआ है?
निश्चित रूप से भाई साहब बहुत फर्क पड़ता है। मैं एक बात बता रहा हूँ कि जैसे हमारा टेक्सटाइल में एक्सपोर्ट का काम था, एक्सपोर्ट का काम हम जिस तरीके से सोचते थे कि सिंथेटिक का एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ेगा, या गवर्नमेंट से हम पिछले 10 सालों से कंटिन्यूटी में रह रहे थे कि हमारे को कहीं ना कहीं एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ावा क्या देने के लिए गारमेंट हब दीजिए, एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ाने की स्कीम लाइए। उसमें किसी भी तरीके का अगर हमारा कपड़ा चाइना के सामने गल्फ कंट्रीज और यूएसए यूके में बढ़े ऐसे एग्रीमेंट करिए, सारा कुछ हमने प्रयास किया। परंतु जिस तरीके की जीएसटी आने के बाद सरकार की हमारी ड्रॉबैक वगैरह जो स्कीमें थी वो सारी कैंसिल हो गई। उसके साथ साथ गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसीज में जिस तरीके से डॉलर बढ़ गया, आज हम अगर किसी चीज का सौदा करें और कल अगर प्राइस में इतना बड़ा अंतर चलता है तो हमारे सौदे कैंसिल हो जाते हैं और माल घर में पड़ रह जाता है। तो धीरे धीरे मैं मानता हूँ कि कई लोगों ने हमारे लास्ट ईयर 2-5 साल के अंदर दुबई में जो ऑफिस कर रखे थे उनको बंद कर करके वापस इंडिया आना पड़ा, वहां नुकसान करके।
The one company looking to capitalize on Twitter's implosion is Koo, the Indian avatar of the microblogging website. The number of subscribers have skyrocketed in the past months, and Koo has also tasted recent success with its entry into Brazil, where it became the top downloaded app in just 48 hours. Business Today TV's Aishwarya Paliwal caught up with Koo's co-founder and CEO, Aprameya Radhakrishna.
The reason to look for an alternative is the ownership change, right? People don't know whether to trust the world's richest man with their thoughts and opinions, and they don't want to pay the $8 or 750 rupees that Elon Musk will charge Indians for preferential treatment of their expressions. And what will happen to the product? Will it remain microblogging? Will it become something else? That is also creating a lot of anxiety for people. So with all of these reasons to look for an alternative, we are actually the only like-to-like alternative across the world. We are the second largest microblog today. And just going and communicating that we exist will actually give all of the people who are looking for an alternative, which will not charge for their freedom of expression, an opportunity to jump and get into a new network and start afresh. And we saw that in Brazil. In the last 48 hours, we've become a household name.
Do you believe Indians will shell out $8, which is roughly 750 rupees? A lot of people have been talking about the fact this is what Netflix used to charge. Now Netflix has also reduced the rates because they understand Indians will not shell out that money. Do you believe Elon Musk's way of monetizing is not right?
So it's not just India, but the rest of the world also thinks that, as in everybody wants value for money, right? And the fact that we've been able to express ourselves in the offline world or online world for free, right? And that has never been charged before, and that has never been treated preferentially, is actually, a shock to people, right? Saying, oh, okay, if I pay, then my voice has more weightage than when I don't pay. So making the rich people's voice better is what Twitter is trying to do, right? And give it more weightage. And I don't think that's the right thing.
Donald Trump, just almost hours after his account was reinstated, snubbed Twitter as well as Elon Musk, saying, I don't see a reason why I should be on Twitter. A lot of other celebrities are now quitting Twitter. Do you think this chaos is good for Koo?
Absolutely. So I think everything that Elon Musk is doing is good for us. He's actually our chief marketing officer. Whatever he's doing, he should keep doing so that there is more chaos. And in that chaos is when we enter and give stability.
Do you think the shine of Twitter, what people used to think of Twitter, that has come down over the years? We are seeing a lot of prominent people from our industry. Karan Johar has quit Twitter. So do you believe, the shine that Twitter had, that's waning?
Yeah, so I think people want platforms to be transparent, open, consistent. So all of these is something that Twitter has been questioned about. Like when it started, it was a very fun, nice, vibrant community, and then as they progressed, they became opaque, they became inconsistent. So I think the solution to that would have been, somebody who's more transparent and consistent in their behavior to be running Twitter. But it's actually gone the other way around.
All right, that's where we leave it on the show today. Thanks so much for watching.